Welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Crew. I'm your host, Michaela, joined by my girl, Josie.
JoJo.
J Ice.
What's happening?
And we've got Dylan back. Hey.
The man, the myth. What's up? The legend.
Make sure you follow and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And we thank you for tuning in. So how's everybody been doing?
Been cool.
Yeah. What the old folks say, blessed and highly favored.
Very much so.
That's your line, ain't it?
It is.
That's your line.
I was with a lot of our folks last night. I went to the Cat Williams comedy show. Oh. It was a time.
Oh yeah, who he out this time?
Okay, it was too many to count. It was about 8 or 9 lineups that he had, all smaller name people. But my friend knew 2 of them who were actors on shows in the 90s or something. Monique was right before him, so that was a nice surprise. And
he gave Monique a shot. That's what's up.
He did, and it was good the whole time. My side was hurting even before he came on stage. So.
I was supposed to buy and sell the tickets to those. I was gonna flip the tickets. Yeah, I saw him months ago. I was like, "Oh, Cat Williams hot right now. He coming to Dallas." And
see, I didn't even know.
Yeah, smoked it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know.
My friends had to tell me.
I had no idea.
we just out the loop, Joe. Come on, we gotta do better.
But people like him, people who have a lot to say, they go against a societal norm and don't accept all these social changes that our country's been going through. We have all of our reasons why we think morality has changed and our values have changed, but ultimately, the biggest social problem that we have in America is fatherlessness. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What its implications are and how it's still affecting everyone, and how we think, how we relate to people. And I just want to pose this question first about even your own upbringings or what you think a father's role.
That's why we got all these bad kids nowadays running around terrorizing. Ain't nobody putting the belt.
Well, that's a lot of the reason.
Praise. I'm a witness.
Well, what do y'all think a father instills in a child that a mother cannot instill in a child? I'll say for one, it's practicality, because I have grown up with my grandfather. He's always been very particular about me choosing paths or making decisions based completely on logic. He's always made me see clearly, given me advice that has always been straightforward, even if it hurts my feelings. He's not afraid to, because we have that relationship. But I know that my father figure, my grandfather, he definitely brings structure to my life, and I know that I'm not making decisions based on just how I feel or what I want to do. But I think that's the good balance. That's one thing that I think a father brings.
Absolutely. I would probably say the foundation of being a man. I think one thing my dad taught me was that a man is simply a recognition from another man. I was like, what does he mean by that? He said, it's not a financial status, it's not a stature, it's not what you have, it's not even what you're doing, but it's a recognition from another man who is doing what they need to do to be a man. You're like, okay, what do you need to do? And so you need to follow the guidelines and things God has called you to do by protecting, providing, loving, and being that figure that you need to be. And with that, right, you could be working, facilities to being the president, right? It's the same. It's not about the status. It's not about the image, but it's about having that genuine care and actual perseverance, actual just manhood. Like you see it. Like we all know, when you see a man, it's like, that's a man. You know?
Yes, I know when
Well, I mean, more so for Jay. Like you know when you see a man, like you're like, man, he may not get recognized, but you know what a man when you see him. Yeah.
And I think just one thing a man can bring that women can't is just a certain amount of protection and provision. And also I believe that, our concept of how we view God is based off of our relationship with our earthly father. And a lot of times, if you don't have a healthy relationship with the earthly father or a father figure, then you're gonna have a skewed vision of how God is to us. So I think that also helps us picture or visualize, how the Father actually cares for us based on how our Father cares for us here.
That's deep.
Yeah, both of what you're saying ties into character. fathers are really good about building or showing what good character is to a child when they're growing up, and instilling confidence within yourself. Because I've received a lot of affirmation, healthy affirmation from my uncles, my grandfather, and now I do have a good relationship with my father, and the affirmation I get from them is in a healthy way, and it's not something that's based on what I look like, which is kind of what women, we tend to compliment each other on sometimes, is, oh, you look great, you know, you're fine. And sometimes you can kind of get a skewed view of yourself if you're only looking at it from a woman's perspective versus a man's perspective as well. So I believe that character is really a big thing, and accountability. You know, I can't mess up if I'm in the house. If I know like I did something wrong, I'm not afraid of my principal and my teacher. I'm afraid about what my grandpa's gonna say, because I have, like, if when I was growing up, I had to go home to that. So, you know, even the presence of a man someone who can not only say something to you but do something is also it's kind of an intimidating factor to a child, because like, you know, there's consequences when you're in the presence of a man versus when you don't have that presence of someone who is a male in your household.
They go what you were saying.
Yeah, I don't care how much a woman threatens you. There's no like bigger threat than like, wait till your daddy come home. Like, it's just a certain fear that just is put in you when you know like you're gonna have to answer to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I'm curious on like why, because we know like why a father is so important. Why is it not so like pushed? And I feel like the culture is just kind of like disregarding it. You know, like, why is that? Like, it's just, I feel like they're acting like it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Fathers are another version of authority, and we all know culture is rejecting authority as much as we can. You know, we don't want someone to tell us what to do or how to live or what to think and advise us on stuff that we don't agree with. So in a way, fathers are that sense of your house authority. But if that's not something that you want, and that's not something that the woman or the mom wants anymore, then that's how, you know, the families get split up. That's how children see problems and don't see that kind of that person who's supposed to have the ultimate say. Like, who is supposed to have the ultimate say in your life if you don't see that growing up? So you think you are your ultimate say, and that's how you live life, and you have relationships with people, and then you get hurt a lot of the time when things don't go your way, because you never had that discipline to say, or someone to tell you like, no, you can't do that, or no, that's not how this is going to go. Yeah,
that kind of goes into what y'all are both saying. I was reading earlier, and this one verse that to me sticks out that points to this topic. Right, when they're in the garden, right, when Adam and Eve and the serpent's in the garden, and Adam and Eve bit the fruit, and all things kind of go wonky at this point. And so God's kind of laying the law down, like what's about to happen next. He just kind of lines everybody up, and everybody's getting this discipline. He looks at the serpent and says, right, because you've done this. And right here in Genesis 3:15, he says, I will put enmity between you and the woman. And that word right there, that means hostility or hatred. Right, between you and the woman. It says, and between your seed or offspring and her offspring, like her seed, he shall bruise your head and you shall bruise his heel. So, right, Eve is the mother of life, right? And so from her has came after Adam, every man and woman. So the culture of the world, right, that is kind of counter of that productivity and love and kindness that we need is fighting against the idea of fatherhood. So then you got fathers are absent because there are things that's causing distraction, causing damage, causing things to get people out of the, I don't want to say traditional style the way it should go, but it makes you feel like it's not necessary to have a father. Then when you don't have a father, then it puts so much burden on the mother, and then each child feels like, hey, I don't have an identity, I don't know who I am, I struggle with then to that man. When I tell you hit on something with the way people view their relationship with their physical father is the way they view their relationship with God. And to me that ties right back to right at the start. You got the enemy fighting against the idea of dads,
Yeah.
and then now they're wrestling to that, and then it wrestles down to everyday life where we've all may have experienced something like that or not.
Yeah, and he fights with it through the women. So women need to chill.
Sometimes, yes.
No, I really feel like, you know, because that's a strong, like, you know, point in the scripture. It's just like there's always this battle between like who wants to be in control, and I feel like in society right now you have a lot of women that want to be the father and the mother. I think it's like 70% of divorces are initiated by the women, and if it's a couple that's college educated, 90% of the divorces are initiated by the women. So if we understand how important a father figure is, why are the women not understanding and respecting that as well? Because they'd be so quick to just end the home. And in certain instances, like if it's a toxic situation, a man's gonna walk away to protect his emotional, mental health versus being there for the female or for the kid.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of good males, like figures though. It's not a lot of actual good men out here. It's a lot of guys. It's a lot of males. But like, I argue this with my sister sometimes, and like she'll be kind of mad at me, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that ain't a man. You mad at a male. There's a difference between a male, a boy, and a man. Those are two different things, or three different things, right? Just cause said guy over here does something, and that don't group all men together. Women are really good at tagging together. I think they got that down packed. They will empower women, be like, you know what? I see you, girl. I love you. Whoop-de-whoop. Guys, heck no. I'm not recognizing everybody as a man. Like, no. It's a lot of dudes out here ain't doing nothing. And they are the problem because they're not leading. And we got a lot of passive guys. So, like, we hear a lot of conferences we go to, and it's like, hey, we need these men conferences, build men up to stop being passive, stop being not present, not showing up for your kids. You don't want to sleep with her. Like, really, you could have avoided that. Now, mind you,
There's woman's choice.
Like Michaela said,
There's
there's
accountability.
there's accountability that has to happen. Absolutely. But to say like it's all on them that's crazy.
I would say it's crazy. I just think, you know, the numbers don't lie. But I mean, I'm interested to see what y'all's perspective is, because there is like you said, women do like tend to like be in more community, and men tend to be more isolated. So it's not like they come up with these ideas on their own. It'd be their whole support system that backs them.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of focus more on like, how can I get more guys to a men status? How can I help build more men up to be able to lead and to out overcast and kind of have more of a space and a say over the males that are dominating the space to have a loud voice, right? It's like, it's a lot of males with podcasts just saying absolutely nothing, and it's like people are begging them to please stop speaking. I'm begging them to please stop speaking, right? Because it's making the idea of what men are look bad. And most men, you don't see them because they serving, they working, they out the way, they trying to build up more men, they trying to build community, and those are the people who need more recognition and shine. Like, I can't really say what's going on in the women camp because I'm so my head down trying to get other men to stop being passive.
Women's empowerment could have done it. I see a lot of the time women wanting to encourage each other so much that we have come to a point where we think we're better than men, and that men are optional because we have so many resources to handle our own lives, handle the way we move, handle anything independently. You know, a lot of women have been told, even by their mothers who are wives, you know, the most important thing you need to remember is you need to be independent. Well, if that's what a woman is taught, she doesn't understand the importance of a man or the importance of what a man is supposed to provide in her life. So that's also something that has been socially conditioned to a lot of women, especially women, several women in my life who I've talked to. I've heard it myself, and you know, everyone around me just says, oh, well, you know, it's just, you just need to work on, you know, being financially secure. Just worry about that. But, you know, that's not going to keep you warm at night. You know, people don't tell you that. It's good, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
And with so much women empowerment, even this being Women's History Month, International Women's Day, blah, blah, blah. Women, we're great, but we're not everything. And the world has allowed us to be super inflated with this idea that we are amazing. We can't take any criticism. We can't handle truth about ourselves, ways to improve ourselves. I can't even tell some women the truth without them wanting to blow my head off, because society has allowed that. And it's also made men more scared to say something that might contradict what a woman agrees with too. So there's so much of that. There's so much canceling between the sexes. It's ridiculous,
True.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to encourage the men to speak up, because it's like the system's against it. You know what I'm saying? The women speak against it. So it's like us naturally, like we be trying to avoid the confrontation. We be trying to avoid the issues. So even like I was saying, like a man will walk away from his own kid to keep his own mental sane. You know what I'm saying? His own mental health. And I think that, yeah, we need to encourage the man to fight through that and to reject passivity. But at the same time, like, you got to be careful who you choose to have a kid with.
Yeah, that's
we having a lot of kids out of wedlock, and people just a one night stand or a fun time turns into 18 years of not fun at all.
You ain't lying. Then you got me thinking on that one. So then, can I ask y'all a question? It may be kind of a personal question, so
go ahead.
You don't really have to answer, but I am curious. So I don't know y'all's father statuses, right? You kind of shared a little bit right there. I don't know yours. So how has your relationship with y'all's physical dad impacted y'all's kind of spiritual walk, right, with God, like your view of God, right, or even your view of like what is, I don't want to say your role, I hate saying stuff like that, like how has that impacted you, right? That's what I'm really curious about.
Right. I would say I felt that I was abandoned by my dad growing up, so I knew God existed, but I felt like he was just out there, but not really paying attention to me. So I wasn't as invested in my spiritual growth in middle school, high school, stuff like that. It wasn't until I left college where I formed my relationship with God on a stronger level, and my relationship with my father, coincidentally. So I would say that it was a direct reflection. And when I've heard, people say your relationship with your father on earth is similar to your relationship with God, and it is true. So I know that I'm more like him, my real dad, than I've realized, because I've grown in closer relationship with him. So it's made me more comfortable to open more up to God on a more personal level in my prayer life too.
Amen.
Well, I think I've always looked for God, and my dad wasn't really there. My dad was a heroin addict, and he died when I was 12. But I think because I've always seen God, and being young, I really didn't judge him. I didn't know what judging was. That was my dad, and especially back then in my culture, kids were kids, adults were adults. You really just, two different worlds. I don't ever really remember having conversations with them, the way my kids have conversations with me. And I like that you said that the relationship that reflects the relationship you have with God reflects on your dad, because as I got older, I've learned forgiveness, and I've learned I'm a mother of 3 kids. Having a dad, a male role model in my life, I have made a lot of wrong choices. I never really knew my value. I really didn't know what to look for in a man, or what a man was supposed to do, because I always just saw my mom doing everything. So I think as I got older, I forgive him, because I don't know what he went through when he was growing up. Back then it was bad, it was hard, and then all my family, they're illegals. They all stopped going to school when they were 3rd grade, 2nd grade. So you got a lot of uneducated people raising, these kids, undocumented people, with no help out in ranches, and so I feel like I've always forgiven him. I do sometimes find myself in my moods or in my feelings, because I've with males, I really don't have a good past history in my life as far as any male role models. But I know that that's the devil just trying to knock me down, just putting those thoughts in my head, because at the end of the day, I do forgive my dad, and I do feel like he didn't know any better. So I feel like he did the best that he could. And if you know anything about drugs, like it's a very different world. And I know that wasn't him.
I like what you said, because it took me having to forgive my dad and realize, okay, he's still a person, and he didn't know his father either. So that helped me understand him more. He also grew up with his grandfather, who taught him everything when he was a little boy. Absolutely. And my father's dad died from drug dealing, so I understand that too.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for sharing that.
Yeah, for real.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who within, y'all kind of alluded to it there, I'm really curious, who was the first male role model in y'all lives, and at what point in your life did you meet him? Right, 'cause I think that's key. Right? Was it when you were a kid? Did you go 20 years before you met this person? Like, who?
Mine was my grandfather. So, like, as soon as I was born, my mom took us from California to Missouri, where my grandparents and their kids were. And it was just because it was a more stable situation. So he's who I've known for my whole life. So it's been him, his two sons, my uncles. They've been my three main male like role models, and then my grandma and my aunt, which I see as my sister. So when we all moved here from Missouri, that's just been our close family unit.
Because this is gonna help you out. What made them a role model? You know what I'm saying? Like, because somebody.
Well, it was the nuclear structure that they built. Like, my grandparents knew each other for years. They were always friends. They were always cool with each other. But I also saw how he was able to be a leader in the household without dominating my grandmother.
That's how
I saw, okay, this is healthy leadership. This is healthy interaction between a man and a woman. They've been married 30 plus years now.
Gotcha.
So, and they've always raised their kids with strong values, strong Christian values. You know, we always are really family oriented. Like, growing up, we did not get takeout. We did not order out to eat. Like, my grandma always cooked. We always sat at the table, ate together as a family. She served his plate. She always knew what he wanted. And that's how she's always operated, even to this day.
Okay.
What?
I'm curious to the same thing.
What was it?
Meaning, like, when was the first time that you've seen, like, who was your first male role model? Like, and at what point in your life did they come into your life? And the key we're looking for, like, what was the characteristic about that person that said, oh, like, this is who I can kind of have as a role model, as a father figure?
Well, I have my tío Raúl. I think like all his nephews and nieces, they look up to him.
Wait, who?
My tío Raúl.
You know,
my Uncle Ralph.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Look, I took 5 years of Spanish. I ain't learned nothing.
My Uncle Ralph. So my Uncle Ralph, because he has his education. He's had his job. He works for the Border Patrol. Like, he has his family, wife, kids. Like, he's just so structured. Like, everybody like knows. Like, he just comes. Like, you hear his name and you just want to just listen to him. Like, you just want to, follow order, fall in line. Like, don't disrespect him. And then my stepdad. I actually named my oldest son after him. Simply because my mom also never really chose good men, and they never really respected us. And my stepdad, he's also a heroin addict. But yeah, he wasn't the best role model, because I used to have to help him shit up. But what he showed me was he was always there for me. Like, he always, like, anything I wanted, like, he was there. Like, no matter like what I wanted, if I wanted an $800 dog, he got it. Like, if I wanted to move to whatever city, he was getting me the U-Haul. Like, he always like gave me advice. He never tried to like belittle me. He never tried to like control me, or like he never like put me down. Like, he was just always like, I feel like he saw me as a person. And even though he struggles with his demons, and again, I don't know what he went through, what got him where he's at, but he never like stole from us. He never disrespected me and my sisters. And I think I've always like respected him for that. Like I said, I even named my oldest son after him, because and I love my sisters. So I feel like for once, this man like always was there for us. Maybe he wasn't the best role model, but he never like, his intentions to us were always like pure and just always there. So I just saw it different, like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
And he would give me flowers and, you know, just take me lunch to school. And so he's the first one I could say that. I consider him as my dad.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
So fathers are really big encouragers. They know how to make you resilient too. You know, a lot of times when I wanted to give up or just stop doing something, even when it came to band in middle school, I did not want to play a saxophone. I did not want to look like a geek. And my grandpa made me play for 3 years. He said, no, you're going to do this. You're going to learn. You're going to be okay. And I was so worried about how my social pressures, like I don't want to look like a geek.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like it was. But honestly, it was a great experience to, you know, learn music, you know, learn how to do something, learn how to persevere through something. So that's also a great trait that fathers do instill, is the resilience that you want to have going into adulthood.
Yeah. Y'all said some good stuff there. Y'all actually touched on some of the statistics I was looking up about fatherless households and fatherless homes, like across the board, right? I know everybody tries to break down a racial, you know, barrier for each thing, but just across the board, y'all kind of touched on a lot of these. I think one that really stuck out to me the most was the percentage of children living in fatherless homes. It said approximately 18.4 million children, or 1 in 4, live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home, which is powerful because then it talks on, you know, some things that you kind of heard in y'all stories, right? Children in fatherless homes are almost 4 times more likely to be in poverty. Children from fatherless homes are more likely to exhibit behavioral problems, including aggression, hyperactivity, and conduct disorders. There's mental health aspects like anxiety, depression, adolescent exposure to stuff, higher rates to teen pregnancy, etc. And the list goes on. One thing I did note from it, it says, and many children from fatherless homes go on to lead successful and fulfilling lives as well. So it's not always the end of the road, right? And I think your Tio is a great example of that, right? Because he left behind a good legacy in your oldest son, who's doing well for himself, right? He had his trials and tribulations he stumbled with, but his heart and desire deep inside was like, Father, I'm going through this. Can you help me through? And I feel like his prayers are answered through the blessing that is in your children, right? That may not be his direct seed, but that's the same family. And I think your granddad instilled that into you and said, hey, I see some things, because your granddad knew your father, or he knew him, right?
Right.
It may be a struggle bus for, you know, you to have that connection, but he knows him. He knows him for a while. So he's like, hey, how can God, you can help answer my prayer and beat these, you know, I asked ChatGPT, I asked GPT-4, like, give me these statistics, right? How can, you know, my seed, my grandchild beat this? And I think y'all are seeing that. And I think people like Jay and myself have a heart and desire, like we young men, we don't have kids, you know, we, you know, single, don't have family responsibilities.
Thank you, Lord.
Right? Amen. But we try to figure out, like, Jay worked with students. Work with a lot of high school students. Wow, right? But he trying, right? He out there in the field trying to do something. That's man activity. Yeah, that's how you be a man and not be passive. And he do it, right? I mean, you probably be killing on a basketball court, Jay, like next level.
Yeah,
but
take it easy on nobody.
It's needed. It's needed, man.
Yeah, and that's just a part of that masculinity that you got to be able to instill, because it's more than just being. When fathers leave the home, you know, it's like they don't understand that they're really starting a generational curse that will affect like their bloodline, and whoever knows that you giving the enemy the opportunity to really like detour your whole like legacy. And but the encouraging thing is that you can always stop that. You know what I'm saying? I am the product of, you know, my grandfather being the one to decide like I'm not gonna follow the same path that my great-grandfather did. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we all have the opportunity to change your course on how you really want your legacy to be defined. But it's just how much you really appreciate that or see the value in that, because you really don't understand how much it affects your offspring when you're not present, when the father's not present. I see it all the time with the students. You know, I can tell which students grew up in a household with just women. You know, they're a little bit more emotional. They can't handle their emotions. You know what I'm saying? They struggle in school. They be getting in fights. You know what I'm saying? They always have something. They usually are a little bit more sexual active earlier. So it's like you see a lot of And then I know the ones who actually have fathers in the home because they know the word. You know, I ask questions, they know what it is. You know what I'm saying? I say, how you doing in school? I'm getting all straight A's. Mm-hmm. You know, I've got scholarships coming and all this other stuff. So you see like the discipline that's also instilled in them. So I think, you know, taking courage, like as far as you know that you can take your destiny in your own hands as far as like stopping a generational curse. Like you said, you don't always have to have a father figure in the home, and you can still turn out fine. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to use that as an excuse to like, well, my father didn't do it, so I'm just not gonna do it either. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because it can stop with you, and you can really start the new trend. Mm-hmm. So
you speaking on the word, because I think the other, like I think Pastor Sean touched on that, talking about rejection. Like you're really speaking on like rejection, like with Joseph, right? Yeah. He got rejected by his brothers, and what he felt like almost like his father. Like, I got rejected. And what you talking about is a lot of times kids, when you leave your family, you starting that seed of rejection. Yeah. Like, dang, I'm not enough. Right. And I think y'all have even been in a relationship. You feel like I'm not enough. Mm-hmm. Like I can't please him enough. I can't please her enough. I can't please my parents enough. I'm not doing enough. It's the feeling of rejection.
You might even show out because you want to get that you know, recognition or attention.
You talking?
You know what I'm
saying? It's a when you touched on it starts a generational curse. That's a deep thing because it's a choice.
Right.
You have to choose that. I was just talking to my granny about this today. Like, it's your choice. God gives you a choice. Your situation is tough, right? But it's a choice. Like, I didn't grow up with my dad. I didn't meet my dad till I was 18, 17. You know, like, it's a choice though how I choose to respond. Now, people can understand and feel empathetic. We ain't trying to tell people like, oh, you know, I get it. You're going to go through some things, right? But it's still a choice. Like when my stepdad and my mom got a divorce, like, and I chose to sneak out the crib. I chose to, you know, start messing with girls at that age. I chose to start. That's a choice. Like, God didn't stick a gun in my head and say, hey man, you need to go. Like, no, it's a choice. It's a response because I felt rejected, right? And then how do you fix that? How do you change that? And I think what you're doing and what a lot of other men and women are trying to do is trying to help. How can we fix the households that are already damaged and try to honestly serve while bleeding ourselves? I think a lot of us be bleeding and we still got unfixed stuff that we ain't talked about, right? And then also trying to rely on people who have these structures already, and how can we give them a bigger audience, you know what I'm saying, more of a voice.
Right. And it's good to be aware about what problems you do lack, or what things you're looking for that you lack. You know, when you grow up, whatever your upbringing structure is, whatever you didn't get from your household, you're going to go out into the world and look for that in other people. So I also see the big correlation between however you're raised is however you're going to relate. However strong your relationships in life are going to be. You could have short-term relationships with people or long-term. It could be healthy, they could be abusive, they could be whatever. But it's usually always stemming back to however you experience relationships with your parents, with your siblings, as soon as you came into this world, into your home. And even with girls versus boys, how they're raised and what they need from their father. Girls, we need that emotional support and security from a father. And you know, a boy needs to know that he's good enough, that his father approves of him when he's growing up. So that's the distinction that I see between how girls, even how I've chosen men sometimes, because I was looking for that emotional security. I was looking for what my dad did not give me, or what I was missing, or what I didn't know about him at the time. I was looking for that in somebody else. So it's really important. Even when you say that you see a lot of guys being passive, a lot of them, I don't know if they do have, you know, a male figure in their life or their dad in their life who is a masculine, strong force, you know, someone who puts them in check, or, you know, keeps up with what's going on in their life, and whose advice they take heed to, because a lot of people don't take heed from their parents. You know, once we're adults, we feel like we want to do whatever we want to do. But, you know, our parents have all this life experience that we forget about sometimes. So I think I do see a lot of guys who may be more passive because they just are trying to figure it out. You know, but they're scared to say that they're figuring it out, or they just don't understand their place in life right now.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Very true.
Yeah, that's what's important to have a father, because you have somebody that you can always, like, it's a built-in mentor. You know what I'm saying? So someone who's already experienced life that's ahead of you, that you could always go to, you know, get advice. So, you know, there's multiple different reasons why they're important. But as we wrap for this segment, you know what I'm saying, appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm Jay Ice, my boy Dylan. We got JoJo and Michaela. We are the Uncommon Crew. Please follow and subscribe at all of our channels at Uncommon Crew. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next time, holla at y'all. Peace.